Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a stupendous show today. I'm running out of superlatives to discuss Rising. But
that's a good one, Robby, because I know that you have this little bit of a thing where sometimes you say it's going to be a middling show when it's a really good show, and then maybe people's expectation is that when you say it's stupendous, it's really not that great. No, today there is an alignment between your descriptor of choice and the quality of the show. A lot of really big news today. Starting up first with the fact that it seems like you should get your popcorn ready, ladies and gentlemen, because President Biden and Donald Trump will be debating ahead of the November elections. Though Team Biden is formally shunning the Commission on Presidential Debates, the nonpartisan organization that has arranged these events since 1988. Here was Biden's challenge to former President Trump.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
But the devil is in the details. President Biden is only willing to do 2 debates. Now, he wants to do them in June when they would be less likely to have an impact on how voters behave in November. He does not want a live audience, and he only wants moderators from ABC, NBC, CNN, or Telemundo. Now, this is coming from a letter sent by Team Biden to the Commission on Presidential Debates. Biden's team says that he would not participate in the normally scheduled debates in September and October, the 3 of them there. He also made clear he would not share the stage with independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or any other third-party candidate. The letter says that the debates should only include, quote, the 2 candidates with any statistical chance of prevailing in the Electoral College and not squandering debate time on candidates with no prospect of becoming president. Trump is apparently A-OK with Biden's stipulations, posting on his platform, Truth Social. Trump wrote, quote, I am ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at the 2 proposed times in June and then in September. I would strongly recommend more than 2 debates and, for excitement purposes, a very large venue.
Biden's debate terms come at a time when the president's reelection seems in jeopardy, not that he is willing to admit it. A Republican pollster linked to an Axios report that says Biden is in denial about his standing in the polls, and many of his closest advisors are skeptical too. The report published Tuesday reads, quote, the dismissiveness of the poor polling is sincere, not public spin, according to Democrats who have spoken privately with the president and his team. According to a recent New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, and Siena College poll, Biden's numbers remain grim, especially in 5 critical battleground states, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. If the elections were held today, Trump would topple Biden in those states by as much as 12 percentage points. Biden would beat Trump in Wisconsin by just 2 percentage points. To add insult to injury, the poll reveals Biden shedding support from Black, Hispanic, and young voters, key voting blocs for Biden. Many are displeased with his handling of the economy and, more recently, his handling of the war in Gaza.
So, yes, there will be debates. Biden's willing to do them and Trump's willing to do them, but they're going to be under circumstances that are markedly different from every presidential debate we've had in our lifetime. There's usually 3 of them in September and October. Biden wants one earlier in June and then also one in September. So 2 rather than 3 under conditions that will be unlike previous debates. And I think, and this is, I'm sure, going to be missed or buried by the mainstream media, the deliberate shunning, disinclusion of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., someone who currently polling around 10%, but has polled as high as 20-something%, 15% being, I believe, the magic number for the Commission on Presidential Debates. But they're getting ignored in this. The candidates are saying, Biden and Trump has said previously, yeah, we don't care what their stipulations are. We're just going to do it our way. That is, and that a very kind of callous remarks that only statistically likely to have any sort of impact on the Electoral College. RFK Jr. at 10% could have an impact on the Electoral College. So this is, they say from the faction that says it's defending democracy, doesn't want to give you a chance to hear the 3 major candidates. I'm sorry, it's 3 debate.
Yeah, and RFK Jr. has recently made the point that given polls, it seems statistically unlikely that Biden will win the election at this point. But it is important to note that the Commission on Presidential Debates, which both parties here seem happy to reject, never allowed third-party candidates. So the choice to go shift away from them isn't some new bulwark against greater democracy. It's really baked into the cake here. Both the Democratic and Republican parties
Absolutely,
have a
fair point.
deep-seated interest in not allowing third parties in. And when you said this is a departure from how debates have been handled since our lifetimes, that's an important point because both of us are 80s babies, and the kind of structures that we expect around the debate process, the commission and presidential debates, wasn't an innovation until 1987. Remember, the whole idea of televised debates is relatively recent in American history, with a relatively recent intervention.
Yeah, I don't mean to say
television.
there's something sacred about the way the commission does it. It's not the First Amendment. It's not baked into our system. That's if they wanted to have debates that involve more public input, are better hallmarks of democracy, involve more candidates, involve more questions about things people actually care about, involve moderators from more diverse perspectives, that would be all to the good. No problem with that. No marriage to the format. But of course, that's not what they're doing.
Right.
That's not what Biden's doing. That's not what he's declaring here.
Well, so the choice of those particular broadcasters is based on who hosted debates in 2020. So they're basically saying, don't add anybody new in there. Whoever hosted the debates last time, we agreed to them. That seems to be kind of a reasonable way to prevent it from being a sort of a brinkmanship going back and forth saying, I like these guys, well, I like these guys. Moreover, I do think that some of the concerns about the Commission on Presidential Debates, the fact that they arguably choose to embrace spectacle, they like a big crowd event, so that you end up playing to the whoever's in the room, and then there's this jockeying around who gets to be in the room as opposed to playing to a broader American audience watching remotely, probably is better for democracy. My concern is this question about wanting to have the debates farther away from the election. That is not a move that I would expect from someone who's very confident about their debate performance.
I've already seen some speculation that, if we're going to put one debate in June, the DNC is after that. Is it after all, a test case for
Right.
Joe Biden where if he performs so badly, there is still time to do something wild and historically unprecedented, at least in recent history, but perhaps necessary if he fares poorly in that debate?
I think that is really spot-on speculation. It's hard to read that in a different
Maybe
way.
if I was Joe Biden, I would want to do the debates even later to make sure there's no time to change them. Sorry, election's tomorrow.
Let's presume that there's some little sliver of Joe Biden that is actually invested in the idea of, quote-unquote, preserving the democracy he's imploring these voters to care about, and who maybe does think that if he does so colossally poorly, he doesn't want the kind of proverbial blood on his hands. I do wonder, though, how you compare that, like how you square that with the bravado of his video announcement saying, put him up,
yeah.
I'm challenging you now, Donald Trump.
Yeah, contrasted with, but no audience, and they I think they wanted, the mics muted when the other person's talking, which again, that's fine. That could make for a more, maybe perhaps a more substantive debate,
Sure.
but is a little different than the I'm getting into the ring, I'm gonna get a couple jabs in.
It feels a
sort
little
of.
desperate to me, I gotta say. It feels a little sad. And it's not just one-sided to me, the fact that Donald Trump kind of picks it up and runs with it in a similarly kind of braggadocious, pugilistic tone on his Truth Social account. It does feel like two people who are historically unpopular candidates trying to gin up excitement for a debate, which I do think people want to see, if only because there has been very little substance, very little actual interaction, very little contrast between the candidates in a way that would allow the voting public to know what they're actually choosing between at a time when there is a sense that neither is really offering them what they want. And what the New York Times has reportedly described, a change election, right? People want change, and yet we're literally getting a rehash of 2020.
And both candidates, both parties, absolutely in lockstep, in collusion to exclude other voices, other candidates, which is par for the course and happens every year. But this year there happens to be a third-party candidate who's not like 1%, not our libertarians and Greens, but 10, 20% in some of the polls, and more than willing to debate, has challenged them to debate, is out there on podcasts and on news shows telling what he thinks and what his policy agenda is, and they are, I'm sorry to say it, running scared from him.
That's a really good point, and I should also note, not only, if polls hold, will RFK Jr. have the biggest third-party numbers since Ross Perot? Jill Stein has recently been making the case that if the election is divided the way that it might be between 3 pro-war, if you include Israel candidates, or 2 pro-war and 2 anti-war candidates, if you're thinking more about Ukraine, and RFK Jr. being critical of that particular intervention, then you could get an interesting vote split that could make it so that nobody gets to 270 and really opens up some interesting possibilities of who could win with less. So I don't know that I would buy into the presumption, depending on what the electorate feels like in a really historically unique election, when we're looking at these favorability numbers, when we're looking at the interest in independent candidates, that it is quite as impossible as some people are projecting for the third-party candidate.
Neither major candidate getting 270 in the Electoral College is a possibility there. I trust you, we're fiddling with those 270 maps, and it is possible to do it. So we shall see. More Rising right after this.